Alright, so here's the question. You get done from a nice weekend of off-roading. You've got scratches all over your MetalCloak fenders, all over your MetalCloak bumpers, and you spent all that money on powder coating. So, now what do? You go get it powder coated again? So that means you have to uninstall everything. You have to go through all the trouble and the time without the vehicle because you don't have a bumper or fenders. Well, I called MetalCloak and asked them what they recommend, and they gave me some helpful hints. So I've got some spray paint, I've got some primer and some sandpaper, and we'll go through the process of painting this thing up and see how close we get to the original powder coating for just a few bucks. Here we go. Alright, so the first couple things you're going to want to do is go collect some supplies. The paint and primer, go with the black primer, just an automotive primer, something cheap. But the paint, you're going to want to go with the Rust-Oleum Textured paint. And let's see if we can get this thing focused right. So Rust-Oleum Textured paint. Home Depot, Lowe's, any kind of hardware store. You're also going to want to get some drop cloth and some painter's tape. Any kind of a masking tape will work, because you don't want to paint the whole vehicle the same color. You don't want to have a lot of overspray. Depending on how deep your scratches are, I've got some pretty deep ones on my rig and I've got some pretty light ones. So you're going to need a couple different ways to get those scratches out to get a little smoother. Sanding discs, die grinders with some Scotch-Brite pads. You can use grinders and sanding wheels, or simple discs and a drill motor, or just sandpaper. All of those options will work. Just find out how deep you need to go. Don't go too deep, don't take off too much material, because then you're going to start changing the integrity, but all you're doing is trying to cover up the scratches. So, alright, so that is what you're going to need. Some spray paint, some tape, some plastic to cover everything up, and start the process of cleaning all the dirt out of the cracks and smoothing all the scratches down a little bit. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so as I'm going through this process, I'm asking myself, so why did I get them powder coated in the first place? Well, the first set of rockers that I had, that's what I was thinking. So I got them raw, spray painted them myself, and thought they were fine because I'm going to scratch them, I'm going to damage them, I'm going to have to keep repainting them anyways. Well, when I finally damaged one to the point that I couldn't fix it anymore, I got another set that were powder coated. And the reason why you get them powder coated is for all the wear points on the body. So this first set, all these wear points here were all the bolts and where all of the points are that actually interact with the other part of the rockers, of the fenders. Those are all the contact points. When you spray paint them, that spray paint isn't as durable, isn't as thick as the powder coating. So you get all the chips, you get the paint to stick. So I'm having to redo these over and over again. So the new one, as you can see, it doesn't have the scratches, doesn't have the rust, doesn't have all the wear points. That powder coating thickness keeps all those contact points much more durable, much more clean, so I'm not having to worry about, you know, what do I do with the scratches, with tightening the bolts too much. None of that's the same issue as it was with just spray paint. So powder coating them first, and let me roll this one over. Oops, just so you see that this is the one that I do use. I've gone through and sanded off all of the edges, made them all smooth. So I do use this rocker, definitely. But the powder coating helps tremendously with keeping down the retouching up, repainting of the inside, and it makes everything just so much smoother. And then with the rear fender flares and the actual body attachment points, as you can see, there's just no sign of rust or wear on these at all, and I've had these 2 years, and there's just no sign of wear on the powder coating. So that's why you get powder coating first, and if all goes well, the paint that I've got will bring it back to the original look, and all I have to do is sand down the outside instead of sanding down the inside and the outside. Just sand down the rust, sand down the scratches, and then repaint the whole thing. Alright, so now that I've got everything sanded, cleaned, grinded, whatever I wanted to do to get it smooth. Basically, I was looking for, smooth edges. I know they're going to get scratched up again, so I didn't take a ton of time trying to get the steel smooth again. But so I've got it all prepped, I've got all the dirt off of it, I've got all the rust off of it, I've got the oils and everything off of it. I've cleaned it with some cleaners that I've got, so everything's ready to go and prepped to be painted. So I'm going to start with priming it. Put 2 coats of primer on it, and then work on the paint after that. Alright, so now I've gone through, masked off all the fenders for the two-tone look that I've got on mine. Primered everything, primered all the rockers, primered all the fenders, gone through, just put 2, sometimes 3 coats on it depending on how thick I wanted it on some of the edges. So everything is all primered up and ready to go. Walk over and I'll show you what I did with the bumper. The nice thing about the MetalCloak fenders is you can actually remove them and spray them outside, spray them in a nice vented area wherever you wish. So front bumper, I didn't want to go through the hassle and all the work of uninstalling it, removing the winch, all those things. So what I've done is I've masked off basically the front half of my vehicle, and taped it all off so the overspray that I get from painting the front bumper doesn't get on my paint job, doesn't get on the front windshield or any of that, and gone through and primered the front bumper. I also masked off all of the stainless steel button heads to keep that look and not have to worry about repainting all of those. If you've got black button heads, if you want them all black, you can paint them, it's all up to you. But I chose to keep those stainless and keep the look that I want. So now that that's all done, I'm going to now start putting the textured Rust-Oleum spray paint on all of the parts. Alright, so the front bumper is all done now. Gone through and taken off all of my plastic and everything's dried up on the bumper. The end result was pretty pleasing. I'm not sure if you can see it, but around the bolt head, the new paint is a little bit shinier than the powder coating, but the texture is a little bit thicker because I sprayed 3 coats on there. But from a distance of a little ways back and with the right light, it looks exactly the same. So I think if I was going to do it again, or next time I do it again, I'll probably do a little bit better job taping off the button heads and getting that a little bit cleaner look. That way it's a lot more uniform. But all of my scratches are gone and my bumper system looks all new and shiny again. The rub rails and fender flares had a little bit of issue with rain today, so they're a little bit slower to dry, but they are well on their way, and we'll get that paint to dry up and get them reinstalled, and we're just about done. Did take quite a long time today because of the weather. We've had rain and hail and all kinds of things. Beautiful in Southern California. All right. All right, so next day everything's finally dried up and it is all done. I just need to reassemble the other half and take the tape off of the flares, but on the one side, but the other side is all done. Bumper looks really good, the rockers look really good, the flares turned out really nice and clean. I've still got a few spots that I probably could have sanded a little bit better, but with the texture coating, it's not like painting a high gloss black that kind of shows everything. So the texture definitely gives you that look that nobody's going to see it unless they're totally scrutinizing your paint job. And having everything powder coated the first time over allows you just a lot more durability with all the connection points, like I showed you on that one rocker, and you don't get the paint chipping and all that stuff that you would if you spray painted it the first time. But the textured Rust-Oleum black paint matched up great. I have no complaints with how it went on. To actually match the color, I probably would have just gone 2 coats instead of the 3 that I did. But you know, you can always put more coats on later on if you don't like the one color, or you could strip everything back down again and work on it from there. But all in all, very happy with the way everything painted up. Thank you very much, MetalCloak, for giving me a powder coat that I can actually spray paint. It worked out pretty well. That is all done.